So if you've been doing Romanian deadlifts for a while, especially if you're filming yourself doing it, you might notice that your lower back rounds at the bottom of the movement. Or even if you can't see some rounding, you might feel that your lower back becomes a little bit less stable, especially as the weights get heavier. And so a lot of times you'll try to arch the back or you'll try to brace your core, but neither one of these actually stops that instability or that rounding. And so this stops you from increasing the weight, because as you increase the weight, it feels like this moves too much, and then instead of stimulating the glutes and the hamstrings, you feel like all you're doing is working and or hurting the lower back. Now, in most cases, the problem here has nothing to do with the lower back muscles or the core muscles, but it's because you're not effectively leveraging your lats. Your lat muscles are huge muscles that go all the way from your shoulder down into the fascia of your low back, called your thoracolumbar fascia, as well as the top of your pelvis. So even though most of us think of lats as upper body muscles for pulling, they actually stabilize the spine and the pelvis too. And in the context of a deadlift, these are actually super important to work with your back muscles and with your core muscles to be able to stabilize this area. If we can use the lats to keep this area nice and still, then we more effectively transfer force to the glutes and the hamstrings. This means feeling it less in the lower back and getting a better stimulus where we actually want it. Now, in order to do this, we need to look at how this would typically fall apart during the Romanian deadlift, and then we can reverse engineer it to arrive at a solution. So let's go ahead and look at what typically leads to this problem in terms of form breakdown, and then we'll go through a progression so you can learn how to activate this area and then later how to integrate it. All right, so first things first, most mistakes in the Romanian deadlift come down to the way that people are imagining getting the weight from the top position to the bottom position. We'll demonstrate this in just a second. But a lot of people think of the Romanian deadlift as bringing the weight from the top down to the bottom and then coming back up. This is even the way people think about hinges too. They'll think that a hinge is chest to the ground and then chest back up. But this is the wrong way to think about hinges. Hinges are happening at the hip, and the better way to think about them is that the hips move back, and anything that happens with the torso relative to the ground is happening as a consequence of that. After all, we don't want a lot of movement in the back, and we want to focus it more at the hips. Now, if we are focusing on this movement as reaching towards the ground, then when we have the bar in the hand, this often increases the distance between the upper arm and the torso. And when this happens, we're going to disengage the lats relative to what they would be if we were keeping that weight closer. So I'm going to exaggerate this. If I reach down towards the ground, we're going to see that this tends to disengage the lats, and I'm going to round. Versus if I keep it against the body and just shift back with the hips, now I've got that armpit in a more closed down position, and I'm not tending to round as much through the lower back. Now we can take this even to the next level to make sure that we're engaging the lats so that when the weight gets heavier, we prevent that natural drift. And to do this, we're going to take the bar, we're going to pull it into our body as we go down. And even just doing this here, I can feel the underside of the armpits engage a little bit, and then all I have to do is maintain that pull into the body as I hinge back. And now, if I'm pulling the whole time, I keep my lats engaged. It helps to stabilize that lower back, and I'm shifting more of the demands to the glutes and the hamstrings. All right, so to get started feeling this, I like to use just a regular resistance band here to practice that first motion. So this is very much like a lat prayer, and we'll start here in the standing position. So I'm going to pull back here, and this would give you the feeling of what it's like to engage those lat muscles here in an upright stance. Now, where this is going to become more important is where we are when we reach the ground. So once we get this, we're then going to maintain this and try to slide back with the hips as we keep those hands really close. And because we have the resistance here, we get a little bit of a cue of what it would be like to keep those lats engaged throughout. We can just do this, practicing that hinge, lats engaged, hips back. Lats engaged, hips back. Now, once we have the hang of that, we can then actually take the bar and integrate it into the movement itself. Now, for this one, I like to put the band just right in the middle of the bar. That way I can just attach it to one point. And then I'm going to pull the bar straight back from that position. Once I pull straight back, now I'm engaging the lats to get there. And then once those lats are engaged, I can practice shifting the hips back while keeping a little bit of that tension and then coming back up. So pull the bar back, feel the lats engage, shift hips back, and practice what it's like to keep those lats engaged the whole time. And so to do this, we're just repeating what we talked about in the beginning, which is pull the weight into you, engage the lats, shift back with the hips while keeping the weight pulled into you, and then finish the motion. Pulling back, moving all through the hips, lats stay engaged, and then extend the hips to finish. All right, so by this point in the video, you should understand how to isolate the lats and how to integrate them into the deadlift itself. And if your limiter was coordination, so just a skill issue, then you should be able to take what we talked about today and go and do exactly what you normally do in terms of weights and reps, and basically right away get the changes to stick. So you should be able to feel it less in your back and get a way better stimulus in your glutes and hamstrings without changing anything else. However, there are two other underlying limiters that might be causing the initial compensation that we talked about. And if this is the case, you probably not only need to work on the skill, but also modify your program as well. So these other two limiters, in addition to coordination, are capacity and tolerance. Capacity relates to underlying strength or endurance issues, and tolerance relates to underlying issues with pain or the anticipation of pain. And so when we're looking at the deadlift itself, we're working the glutes and the hamstrings. And so if we have reduced endurance or strength there, so reduced capacity, or the brain, for whatever reason, is anticipating pain if we load this area too much, then we might subconsciously be moving more through the back to avoid moving as much into those glutes and hamstrings. Now, if this is the case, we need to make two possible adjustments. The first is going to be to reduce the weight that we use, and we'll talk about why in just a second. And the second is going to be able to supplement with some strengthening or direct exposures for the glutes and the hamstrings themselves. So on that first note, the reason that we want to reduce the weight is that when we use the back more effectively, we actually transfer more work to the glutes and hamstrings. So if I was anticipating pain there, or if I truly had weakness or lower endurance here, then just by changing that form and using a lower weight, I might actually be working this area just as much as I was at a heavier weight, or potentially even more. So as we lower the weight and we improve the form, oftentimes the amount of work we're doing here is actually going to be very, very similar to what we were doing before. However, the difference here would be that our technique is much better and much more scalable in the future as we build back up. Now, on that second point, in terms of supplementing it, we could either do this because we're trying to improve strength or endurance, again, that's a capacity issue, or because we're trying to expose the area to safe sensation to reduce the probability of pain. In either case, we can use isolated movements like hamstring curls or hip thrusts, or really anything that targets the glutes and the hamstrings, with slight variations in how we're going to prescribe it depending on what that limiter is. In a lot of cases, if it's tolerance, I would use low weights and high reps. And if it was a capacity issue, I would change the weights and the reps depending on if it was an endurance problem or a strength problem. Now, with all that said, the big takeaway point here is that we not only need to look at improving the form, but we need to understand why we're seeing the form that we are. If it's truly just a skill issue, then we can just get better cues and understand how to sequence the movement of the body through space. But if it's a problem with the anticipation of pain or something to do with strength or endurance, then we need to address that as well alongside of these form changes. So we'll dive into this more in future videos, but if you want help with this, I have the link in the description that you can use to apply to work with us one-on-one. We go through the process of assessing each of our clients, identifying what their limiter is, and then building a program and progression around that. All right, as always, thanks a lot for watching this video. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all those good things. And until next time, peace.